These players just might save your dynasty team, and we mean that because they're great values right now. You should not be selling them, and actually you should be going exploring trades for them because right now there's something about their value that is just bonkers. Let's start with Jalen Waddle. I'll let you talk about Jalen Waddle, actually. I'll let you talk first.
Oh, Jalen Waddle. He's such an interesting case, such a curious case. There's such an extensive story with Jalen Waddle, and I kind of want to start at the beginning because Jalen Waddle, he comes out of Alabama. He stays there 4 years. He kind of gets a pass because, he's coming from Alabama, and it's hard to get a starting job there.
Sick Nabin.
Gets a real nice pick with the Miami Dolphins in the first round, even before Heisman Trophy winner Devonta Smith, and people get real hype about him. And then he produces as a rookie, has one of the better rookie seasons that we'd had seen up until that point. And the hype with Jalen Waddle going into his second year was ultra high. I mean, I think we saw him from a dynasty fantasy football perspective at the wide receiver position being a top 5 dynasty wide receiver. It was
from a value perspective,
yes. That was kind of
he was 5 and Tyreek Hill was 10.
Yeah, well, and it was before Tyreek Hill, and then Tyreek Hill gets drafted, or
he was the wide receiver. He peaked at the wide receiver 3.
Jeez, wow!
And he maintained that throughout last season
for a while.
Yeah,
right. So then Tyreek Hill doesn't get drafted. He gets signed to the Miami Dolphins for a market-breaking deal. I like $100+ million. And Waddle's value stays the same because people were trying to be smart with Waddle, which was totally understandable. It was like, hey, Tyreek Hill isn't going to be here forever. There's a chance that in a Mike McDaniel-led offense that he can still be productive. And they were right. And we were right. And Jalen Waddle produces a wide receiver 1 with Tyreek Hill. Granted, it was a low-end wide receiver 1, but we were pretty confident that he was going to be able to maintain his value for the foreseeable future. Then you get into his third year, and he totally craps the bed. Now, it's not that simple, though. He didn't just stop producing. He got injured. He struggled with injury all season, and this dude named Devon Achane decided to go to the Miami Dolphins in the third round. And this dude named Raheem Mostert, who's a 31-year-old running back, a speedster out of Purdue from a decade ago, decided to finally play football and lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns. Total touchdowns. There were so many touchdowns taken away from the running backs, or taken away by the running backs in Miami's offense this year, that the only touchdowns remaining were all going to Tyreek Hill. And yeah, touchdowns are volatile. So what are we really going to say about that with Jalen Waddle? Does it really change the way that we're going to value him? It does when he's being valued right now as
wide receiver 11.
Wide receiver 11, which, again, at face value doesn't look terrible, but look at the guys that he's going around. Devonta Smith. Are you taking Devonta Smith or Jalen Waddle?
Waddle.
Nico Collins.
Waddle.
Jonathan Taylor.
Waddle.
Brandon Ayuk.
Waddle.
I think that kind of speaks for where we are with Jalen Waddle right now and what his value is. We've had him in buy videos before. This video isn't just a dedicated buy video. This is like
a hold video too.
This is a hold video too. If you own Jalen Waddle and you're worried about his future outlook, I have a really encouraging sign for you. Tyreek Hill is not getting any younger. And you know what the dynasty community thinks about wide receivers that continue to get older during their second or third contract.
And this is an inverse operations thing where as Tyreek Hill goes like this, naturally Jalen Waddle's going back up.
Yeah.
Blind test. How many targets did Jalen Waddle have this year? He spent a ton of games injured.
I think
he got hurt like halfway through every game, it seemed like. How many targets did he still have?
Was it roughly the same amount that he had his second year?
Yeah, pretty close.
I want to say 110.
104.
Yeah. Which doesn't surprise me. And he had 116 his second year, and it was unbelievable that he produces a wide receiver 1, which is going into year 3.
You might say,
we thought Waddle was a sell.
Well, yeah, we did, and he was a sell.
Yeah,
because look where he is now.
Because he was getting too many yards with those targets. It wasn't sustainable. We knew that his yards per reception were going to go down, and of course they did.
I mean, you're talking about a guy that was 65th in routes run this year and 10th in target rate. 27.5% target rate. Target rate is nice for players that play 14 games and get injured halfway through every game because you can look at it and it's relative to their actual participation level. Now, granted, a good point to be made, and an important one, is that Jalen Waddle has struggled to stay healthy. And Jalen Waddle really needs to stay healthy. Really needs to.
Yep.
We're going to be looking for that. We're going to be definitely monitoring that, and that's something he needs to fix. But we're gonna bet that it does. I mean, there's some other, he's 12th in YAC this year, and playing in 14 games, he's 12th in YAC. He was 7th in formation adjusted yards per route run and 8th in yards per route run. Not to mention, to a shout out, 4th in target accuracy. So, I mean,
he didn't get bad at football. Is basically what we're saying.
13th in target separation, 9th in EPA.
Yeah.
2nd in the entire league in route win rate. Again, rate. And it doesn't mean squat when you're not healthy. We did not make excuses for T. Higgins. We're not going to make excuses for Jalen Waddle.
Right.
But we are going to say Jalen Waddle's really freaking talented. And right now, you can get him cheaper really than wide receiver relevant prices, in my opinion. So, All right, let's move on to the next guy on this list, Bryce Young.
Ooh.
Dave.
Are we really going to do that?
I think we are going to do that.
Okay.
Dave, how do you say his name? Canales?
Canales, yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Dave Canales.
Until he tells us like a year from now that it's actually
Canals.
Yeah,
Canals. Shout out Devon H.
Then it's going to throw us off for the
Dave
rest of
Canales.
eternity.
Started in Seattle. We're just talking about in the last 18 months, really. Was in Seattle. And out of nowhere, Geno Smith comes in. Not only is Geno Smith fantasy relevant, like top 12 quarterback fantasy relevant from a points per game perspective, Geno Smith's relevant from an NFL quarterback perspective again. I'm like, Geno Smith, last time he was relevant was 6 years ago. Like, where did this come from?
He wasn't even irrelevant. He was dead.
He wasn't even on Dynasty rosters. He wasn't on Dynasty rosters. So I didn't think much of it other than like, wow, like the Seahawks really resurrected his career, whatever. But then I heard about old Dave.
Yeah, and he gets this like pretty impressive job.
Promotion. I mean, he gets promoted to be an offensive coordinator of a football team, and he goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And going into the year, we're like, this is something to monitor. He did a really good job with Geno. We mentioned it on one of our videos, actually. We're like, if this guy goes in, like Baker could take a pretty good step up and be fantasy relevant. Mm-hmm. Lo and behold, old Davo got Baker to be fantasy relevant. And Baker played fine.
Pretty solid.
But I think this is another good coaching job by Dave for Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield, who, if you ask us 18 months ago, or I guess probably 2 years ago, we're like, Baker Mayfield would have just gotten traded, and Geno was still dead. And old Dave went in there and just
good old Dave
just did a heck of a job with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I was, we had texted about coaching vacancies and such before any of them happened, and I'm like, old Dave needs a coaching job.
Good old Dave.
And old Dave got one. And he's going to be Bryce Young's coach. And I think this will have a significant impact on Bryce Young and his dynasty production and his dynasty value.
Yep.
Because Bryce Young really couldn't have been a ton worse his rookie year. He was pretty darn bad. And there were some decent excuses. Being in a Frank Reich offense is a good reason to be bad. We've learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
Adam Thielen being your wide receiver 1. Taking Jonathan Mingo in the second round. Yeah, I mean, like, you get
that was a Reich pick.
Dave Tepper, right? Dave Tepper is your owner. Yeah, I think he had a reason to be bad, but then here steps in Dave, and Dave,
good old Dave
is going to, in my opinion, give Bryce Young what the frick, Avery, you're dyslexic. Bryce Young a second year step up. It's not going to be a sophomore slump. It's going to be a sophomore superstar.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is something where this is absolutely true. We are not advocates for betting on the outlier. See every single thing that we ever said about Justin Fields last year. With Bryce Young, I think it's really difficult to see his production his rookie season and and confidently say that he's going to have a super successful NFL career. That's not what we're saying. This is a market value play. When you look at the history of what Dave Canales has done with QBs that are not only like not great, but terrible and irrelevant, and statistically and historically had no reason to ever be good ever again. He's already produced 2 outliers at the quarterback position, which to me shows a pattern. What we've also seen in recent years is, one, we have seen more outliers, I guess, become successful quarterbacks just in the last 3 or 4 seasons. And Trevor Lawrence specifically had the worst coaching situation his rookie year, was taken first overall, a very, very good prospect. Some labeled him as generational, wouldn't bust. He was awful his rookie season. Awful. Doug Peterson, who not everyone was super high on Doug Peterson, going into Lawrence's second year, he played amazing, and he ended up being a first-round Dynasty startup pick. There were a ton of questions with Lawrence going into his second year, and a lot of people, even despite the Doug Peterson hiring, were saying you need to avoid Lawrence at all costs because of what he did production-wise his rookie season. Historically, those QBs don't really have success, so just ignore him. And that was with Lawrence going in like the 4th round of Dynasty startups going into his second year. Bryce Young is going in like the 6th or 7th round. At that point, you're taking shots on guys that aren't necessarily proven, or they're kind of on the older side in that range anyways. So why not in a super flex league go and invest in Bryce Young, who's going to be paired to a coach that I don't know if he's going to be a great head coach, but from an offensive perspective and a quarterback development perspective, his resume speaks for itself.
And Bryce Young is the QB 17 on Keep Trade Cut. Go buy him. It's a good price and a good opportunity.
And if you miss and it doesn't work out, what did you lose out on? No one's paying a first for Bryce Young. He doesn't cost that.
Let's talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba. Actually, it's your turn technically. Go ahead.
No, we're talking about it together.
All right,
you
fine.
start
Let's
out.
Okay, I'll start.
I just had a whole rant about Bryce Young.
Well, that's why I felt like it was my turn, but then I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 21 on Keep Trade Cut.
Wow.
If you know anything about us, we are big JSN lovers. We were big fans last year. In fact, we thought he was going to come in right away and produce. We were wrong about that.
He did about half what we thought he was going to do.
Yeah, he did not produce right away. We're like, yeah, he's just going to kind of push Tyler Lockett out. And Tyler Lockett was like, And the random tight ends were like,
And then DK Metcalf put up 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns.
7, yeah, well, right. So you're talking about Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is 61st in route participation this year. But he was 9th in slot snaps, which is like, that's pretty good. I like that. You're talking about a guy like Josh Downs, also had a lot of slot snaps his rookie year, but 6th in target separation. A lot of people, we've seen, it's because his average depth of target was super low, which to some extent, yes, that is true. That was a lot of it, but it doesn't take away from the fact that average cushion, 9th in the league, right? So this is a guy that, but I mean, it's not like this is new for JSN, even if it's not because of its ADOT. Like, this is truly a guy that is good at getting separation. He was good at this in college. Mm-hmm. He really was. Yeah, and 78th in yards per target in the league at 6.8. So you have to keep that in mind as well. 89th in yards per reception at 10 yards per reception.
There are a lot of things wrong with Seattle's offense in 2023. I know a lot of people weren't super high on the Mike Macdonald hiring. It kind of seemed like an on-brand hire, another defensive coach who's younger than Pete Carroll. I understand it. Mike Macdonald, I think he could actually be pretty good, and I think he could be a really solid head coach. He's going to be the youngest head coach in the NFL. Did you know that? He's only 36 years old.
I didn't realize he was that young.
36, yeah. So they're definitely looking for the next long-term hire and a 36-year-old head coach. But look, with Mike Macdonald as a defensive head coach, I'm not really concerned about that negatively impacting the offense because the offense already wasn't great last year, and they had a ton of tools. They've really got it set. They have 2 solid running backs. They've got 3 solid receivers, maybe 2 now since Lockett may leave. And Geno, who is what he is. They're probably not going to draft a QB. They have Geno under contract, and he's an average NFL quarterback. He's not bad. What they need is a competent OC to come in there and actually utilize the skill sets of every player in that offense correctly, which we saw dang near none of that last year. I'm not trying to knock on the Seahawks. I really like the Seahawks, actually, and I think they're going to be successful this season more than they were last year. But this could be a hire where Macdonald goes in there and he knows exactly what he needs, and he knows the type of offensive coordinator and staff that he needs to make this offense successful. And if he can do that his first year as a head coach, you're looking at a lot of success for Jackson Smith-Njigba right off the bat, because the offense isn't the problem. The talent's there. We showed you the efficiency metrics with his target separation and his ability as a route runner. They just didn't throw him the ball. We would watch the games and you'd see replays and you're like, he's wide.
Throw
the ball to him, dude.
Yeah, that is true.
It's like they just didn't. I'm I, for one, am super excited to see what he does. And I've been doing a ton of blueprint reviews for you guys over at flockfantasy.com. And JSN has been one of the top assets I've been telling you guys to go invest in. Not because I think it's a lock that he's going to be an amazing NFL wide receiver, but I think there is a lot of room for him to increase in value, which is why he's a good market value investment right now, because he can move up 3 rounds easy.
A team what?
A team blueprint.
Well, tell me about that.
Well, a team blueprint is a customizable thing that looks like this right here.
Wow.
Where,
Get this thing.
Where we review your team. If you sign up for the Mother Flocker tier over at flockfantasy.com/domain, you have to use code domain. You'll get all of our exclusives. You get our Discord community. You can DM with us in the Discord after we send you your blueprint, give you team advice, really anything. We have a ton going on there. And for everything we know, our the people that are over there really like it.
We've gotten good feedback from it. So if you want one, flockfantasy.com/domain, choose Mother Flocker, use code domain, and you get one.
Links in the description.
Links in the description, guys, and in the comments.
Nice.
Both of places.
Both of them.
So JSN, the price is pretty good. Let's talk about Dallas Goedert, though. This is funny.
This is nuts.
Dallas Goedert. So Ryan Bread, who we always talk about, Ryan Bread, he is a comp guy. He's a guy that
big comp guy.
Yeah, big. I mean, in my opinion, one of the biggest comp guys.
One of the bigger ones.
He hates it when we say that. It's freaking hilarious. But he's one of our analysts. He's our lead analyst, actually, and he helps us out a lot. He does a lot of our research and stuff. He likes to point things out like this. Dallas Goedert is the tight end 17 on Keep Trade Cut.
17.
Is this like a glitch?
17.
Like, look, I know Dallas Goedert wasn't great this year because he was hurt.
Dude, Luke Musgrave, who was towards the end of the season outproduced by Tucker Kraft, is ranked higher than Dallas Goedert.
Hey, you want a good strategy tip for your dynasty team? Sell Isaiah Likely.
I was just about to say that. I was Isaiah Likely.
I mean,
Michael Mayer, who knows what the frick he's going to do? I don't know. It's not even close how much higher Jake Ferguson is ranked than Dallas Goedert right now. I personally am taking Dallas Goedert over Jake Ferguson all day because he's just more talented.
Guys, at minimum, he's a top 12. Top 10.
Would you rather have Dontavion Wicks or Dallas Goedert?
Dallas Goedert.
Oh, okay. What about Zamir White?
Is this seriously?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Like,
yep. Dontavion Wicks.
Oh, my
Zamir
gosh.
White. Jacoby Myers.
I think we made this argument for you.
James Conner and Aaron Jones.
Dallas Goedert, just go get him right now for super cheap. That's what I would do.
Super duper.
Yep. Take the next guy.
Our second to last guy here is going to be Trevor Lawrence. Trevor. Oh, Trevor.
Good old Trev, man.
Good old Trevs. As a Colts fan, am I super devastated that Trevor Lawrence didn't have a good year and lost a ton of draft stock? I will fake cry all day. In reality, I am really happy that we potentially only have to deal with
Stroud.
one quarterback that's going to kick our butt for the next 15 years instead of 2. So maybe the Colts can get a wild card berth every other year.
Do you think Lawrence would be better if he cut his hair?
That's a great question. I don't think so because I think the hair just is hilarious. Like it just makes it so funny.
Okay.
So if he cut it, he wouldn't even be funny anymore.
He would just be bad. That to say, Trevor Lawrence is a really good value in Dynasty right now.
Yeah.
I'm doing a Dynasty startup mock draft for ADP right now.
2-3 turn.
2-3 turn.
You got to take him. And this is nothing. This isn't us supporting his poor performance last year. Honestly, no. I would attribute a lot of this to the way I've felt about Doug Peterson for a while, which is I think he's a mediocre coach at best.
You know,
and
some people are saying
their team on the in the final stretch of the season showed absolutely no toughness at all. Like none. And if you think they didn't, like I don't know what to tell you. They crapped the bed, dude. They were 8-3 in the running to be a 1 seed, and they missed the playoffs after being 8-3. That's terrible. And they never really looked like they had it going offensively for a consistent stretch. Like ETN was hit or miss. Calvin Ridley hit or miss. Who could have seen that coming? I don't know. Definitely not us. Yeah, it was us. But look, with Lawrence and his value, this is all about the contracts. And I know contracts in this new NFL where everyone's getting paid $40 to $50 million for long-term deals, even if they're mediocre, like they're going to mean less. But we haven't quite gotten to that point yet. And we know for a fact that Jacksonville has never had a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence. They've never had a quarterback nearly as good as Trevor Lawrence.
Gardner Minshew.
And I don't care
Have you
Who?
seen the graphic about like Gardner Minshew and Trevor Lawrence through the first like 60 starts?
No.
Gardner Minshew has legitimately better stats. Like,
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
That's
It is so funny.
That's hilarious, but also very telling that this is the history of Jacksonville Jaguars quarterbacks. And I'm not trying to crap on the franchise. I hope long term that Trevor Lawrence is relatively successful. Not so much that he craps
Kills
on the
us.
Colts,
Yeah.
but what I will say is that Jacksonville would be stupid if they didn't pay him, because they'll be in a world of hurt for the rest of. They may have to relocate. Like,
And this is the
so,
this is the bad for Lawrence. He was 8th in the league in pass attempts, but he was 10th in passing yards. He was 5th in air yards. He was 7th in money throws, but he was 4th in danger plays and interceptable passes. So like you're talking about a guy that needs to make a little bit better decision. Here's
struggle with injury all year too. He was very, very banged up, which again is not an excuse, because injuries do count against you from a fantasy perspective. But when you're looking at like what he's capable of doing when he's actually healthy, like I think he would have done better. He scored the same amount of points per game this year that he did his second year when he gained so much draft stock. And
It's
to
just-
me,
people expect him to make
people
the elite
expect
jump.
him to make
That's what it was.
another jump, and he didn't. What I will say is his rushing upside was very helpful this year. Very
And last
helpful.
year.
Yeah. But I think even more this year.
15th in passing touchdowns. Only 21 passing touchdowns.
Yeah. But I mean, when you look across the league, it was a down year for quarterbacks in general anyways.
He had 4 rushing touchdowns this year. So
Yeah.
And also 21 rushing yards per game. 9th in total rushing yards. But
I mean, that's an extra 2 points per game, dude.
with Lawrence, like, again, it's the price. It's the price. Don't expect him to be like miles
Incredible.
better,
But
but the price is good. And let's talk about real quick. Here's the cherry on top. It's a really old, wrinkly cherry with a broken stem. But Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is somebody who you can get right now. Let's see. Let's go to good old
let's go through and go to
Cheapcade Trud.
You'll keep take. Oh crap! You made me say it wrong.
Uh,
Dang it, dude.
Chick Nub.
Yeah, this is the way.
Yeah,
Same value equivalent to Dallas Goedert, right around that range. If you want to trade away Luke
There you go.
Musgrave and go get Nick Chubb, by all means, please do.
Please do.
I guarantee you. I guarantee you, even if you're a rebuild and you own Luke Musgrave and you're looking at Nick Chubb on a different team and they're super low on Chubb, do a swap for the offseason, and then once you get to the regular season of 2024, go trade Nick Chubb and get like Luke Musgrave, Mook Musgrave,
Go get Mook Musgrave.
plus a lot.
I just love making him scrimmage. Go swap him. All right, yeah, Nick Chubb, great value. Somebody you can be trading for. Do us a
Yeah.
huge favor, drop a like on this video, and make sure you subscribe if you play Dynasty, because we, believe it or not, also play Dynasty.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
You sure about that? Peace.